Here's the thing. Albanese does not want to talk about this under any circumstances whatsoever because it is the major embarrassment. And this is the big one that will see the Albanese government swept rightly from power, allowing, 3,000, up to 3,000 tourist visas coming in from Gaza. We've got a graph here I want to show you which shows the Gaza visas issued by country. There are all the countries along the bottom. You don't need to know
Australia?
Which one is Australia. There you go. That's the global, who's letting Gazans in around the world. Now, there's a sensible discussion to have here. Firstly, I don't see any Arab or Muslim nations taking many Gazans in.
Well, not many.
But the biggest, and tell us, Rita, about the big scandal of how these visas came about.
Well,
and,
they've tried to have the easiest way to get people here, which is a tourist visa, because typically a tourist doesn't have that many checks done, so you can process them very quickly. And we've got to just acknowledge this entire little catastrophe is Anthony Albanese's self-inflicted God. Nobody asked him to do this.
Oh, I bet Penny Wong asked him. I bet Penny Wong asked him.
I know they have pressure from the segments of some of their electorates. I know all the activist class. We know that. But this is the Prime Minister, and he could have held strong here and said no.
But hang on, Rita. The idea that Anthony Albanese is going to hold strong? I mean, honestly.
You defeated yourself with that one. That is true.
You walked right into
game
that.
over.
This is seriously, though, this is a real scandal. This is because they are literally playing with national security and public safety for votes. Peter Dutton nailed it this week. This was a visas for votes scandal. This is what this is all about. This is shoring up support with Muslim populations in Western Sydney, in Melbourne, some of these key seats where people like Tony Burke, who is now the Home Affairs Minister. So the Home Affairs Minister represents a seat that has one of the highest Muslim populations in the country, now making the decision to give tourist visas and pushing through with that decision to grant tourist visas to people coming out of Gaza. Well, I'll tell you what, they come here on tourist visas and you know what's going to happen. Then they apply for refugee status, and no matter what happens, Gaza could be rebuilt into Singapore. They will never leave, because this is what happens. Once people file these claims, it is almost impossible to get them out of the country. The number of deportations that happens every month in Homeland Affairs figures, it's around a dozen, if that. So it's a tiny number. And this, though, these are people who are coming from a population where the majority support Hamas. Approve of what October 7th was all about. These are, and you had people like Mark Burns saying, oh, well, as long as it's just rhetorical support.
The biggest disgrace in Australian bureaucratic history. That is just an
absolute disgrace. And we look at what happens around the world, the idea that we would play with this at all just to shore up votes. And it tells you how badly his internal polls are now, by the way, he's doing this.
We only need one person out of the thousands to do anything violent. But I think they're jumping at shadows. This is what I don't understand. Do they fear that? Does Tony Burke think his seat's going to go to a coalition MP? No. If at worst, there might be a couple of independents who get up in these seats. Unlikely. But I think they're actually committing to policies to try to appease an angry voter base that isn't going to be appeased by these policies, whilst doing themselves enormous political harm.
We can never forget that Labor, the top people in Labor, in fact the whole of Labor, but the top people in Labor are all basically student undergraduates from Sydney University in the 1970s and 1980s. Their views have not shifted from then. Israel bad, anything with the Palestinian flag or whatever it is, good, must be good. That is the thinking. It's no deeper than that. It goes no deeper than that.